What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. As you can see, the D100 project is back in the garage and up on stands. And well, that's just because today's video is going to have me doing a lot of crawling around under the truck, and I thought it would just be better to have it on a flat surface rather than out on my slanted driveway. Now, in the last video, I did some more work to the front suspension where I replaced the rubber mounts for the strut rods, the sway bar and the sway bar end links with some poly mounts, and I replaced the steering box that I broke. Oh well. At the end of that video, I had planned on showing how to basically bleed the power steering system, but my battery was dead. So since then, I charged the battery, and with the front end still up in the air, I filled the power steering system, ran the engine, and ran the steering from lock to lock. After each cycle, topping off the power steering fluid until, well, the level stopped dropping and filling the power steering box. Once that was done, I took the truck for a test drive and everything felt great. The steering was tighter than it was before, still a little loose, and that's just because I think the joint between the mid shaft and the steering column needs to be replaced. That drive was also a bit of a test. So a few weeks ago, I actually drove the D100 to work, and it's about 30 miles each way, mainly freeway driving. And I noticed that the transmission temp was getting like stupid hot, like 270 stupid hot. Now, I don't think that temperature reading was accurate. And here's why I think that. So I'm not really sure how well this is going to show up. It's actually kind of dark under the hood here, but down inside the frame rail here, right down in there, I installed a thermostat. And I actually did a video on those thermostats. I have one for the transmission cooler and one for an eventual oil cooler. I'll link to that video up here. Now, those thermostats, they're really nice. They're an Earls unit, and what they do is, you have your fluid coming out of the transmission, it hits that thermostat and loops back to the transmission. Once the temperature hits about 180 degrees, it opens, allows the fluid to go through to an external cooler or to the radiator or however you have yours set up. I happen to have mine set up not through the radiator, but just to an auxiliary cooler. Now, the issue that I think I'm having, it also has a port where you can hook up a gauge, a temperature gauge. The issue I'm having is that thermostat is billet aluminum, and I think it's really absorbing a lot of heat. So the temp gauge was reading really high, and I don't think it was an actual temperature of the fluid. So yesterday's test drive kind of proved that. So right here in front of the radiator is where I have my auxiliary coolers. This one here is for the transmission, and I have one over there eventually for the oil. And I did a video on these also where I did this install. Recently, I decided I wanted to add this fan. And what I did was right here on this setup is a thermally actuated switch. When this switch hits, I believe 180 or 185, it closes, thereby triggering this relay right here that I installed, which will energize the fan. Yesterday's drive, my temp gauge for the transmission was showing 200 when I got home. And so I quickly jumped out of the truck, popped the hood, and the fan wasn't running. I checked voltage all the way through. All the voltage was good. So that tells me that this switch never closed, which meant the fluid never actually hit 180 or 185. So I think the reading on the thermostat, again, is right down in there, I believe is just showing an inaccurate reading due to the fact that that thing is billet and is absorbing a lot of heat. So all that got me to thinking. This transmission came out of a 91 Ram Charger. Now, doing some research, I believe those Ram Chargers take their transmission temp reading right at the output of the transmission. So, and since I have mine plumbed with -6 AN line, I picked up an inline adapter that I could then plug a transmission temp sender into. or temp sender. So part of today's project, I'm going to be installing this right at the output of the transmission, and then I'm going to rerun the wire that goes from the thermostat in the frame rail back to the transmission to this. All right, unfortunately, I've been trying to figure out how to get a good angle to record this for you guys, but with the exhaust there and everything else, and it's just tight, I can't get a good angle on it. So again, my plan is to take this fitting, put it on the output of the transmission, which is on the front, and then reconnect my AN line here that goes out to the thermostat. Again, I can't get a good angle on this, so I'm just gonna take my word for it. This is gonna get installed right now. All right, well, this part of today's video is on hold. The outlet port of the transmission, I can't fit the fitting there because it interferes with the linkage for my shift cable. So I had to order a 45-degree NPT to -6 AN fitting. That'll ship from Jegs on Monday. So as soon as I get that in, I'll finish this portion up. So I'll come back to this. Now on to the next thing I need to get done. And that is right here. So this is the connector going out to the speedometer. So I've got the cable run right here, and that goes out to the speedometer, but I need to extend this cable and just ground this side. According to Autometer, that's how you hook up their speedometer to one of these transmissions. So I'm gonna run a wire, I'm gonna extend this one out and ground this probably, maybe right to that bolt right there for the cross member. And then I'm gonna put some wire loom over this, and I'm also gonna add like a P-clamp somewhere probably along this cross member here, just to keep the wires up and away from the exhaust. So that's what I'm gonna do now. All right, well, there you can see what I did. So I added this P-clamp right here, just screwed to the cross member, and then the ground wire actually comes up and loops around and is grounded right underneath the P-clamp. I sanded off the paint, so I should have a good ground there. Now all I gotta do is add some high temp loom to this just to protect it from the exhaust. Another project off the checklist. All right, well, it's been a few days and I finally got the part in that I was waiting for. I mean, 4 days for a little 1/8 inch NPT to -6 AN fitting, 45 degree. Hopefully this will be enough to get my output of the transmission around my shift cable. Let's get it installed. Well, that sucked. I mean, if you're not donating a little bit of blood to the hot rod gods, well, I'll let you take those chances. Me, I make my sacrifices. Anyway, that fitting was a pain in the ass, just because with it being a 45 and the location and trying to get a wrench on it, and yeah, that sucked. But it's in, got the temp sensor connected, everything's connected. I actually fired the truck up, no leaks. Obviously I can't really get the transmission up to temperature here in the garage, so that's gonna be a test drive. But that'll be for the next video. So next video I'm gonna test the transmission cooling, make sure that's all good to go now, and I'm gonna calibrate the Autometer speedometer. So appreciate you guys for watching. Hit that subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you on the next one.